Good evening. Today is Sunday, June 7th, 2026. I'm Rich Stevens, and this is The Cold Take. What you're about to hear is news from this week, taken only from primary sources like press conferences and court documents. You can find those sources and attribution for every story at thecoldtake.com. I want to start with a story that I can't tell. In Texas, 19-year-old Carmelo Anthony is on trial for the stabbing murder of then 17-year-old Austin Metcalf. The Cold Take is based on primary sources, but this judge has closed the courtroom to any form of video or audio recording and limited physical access. It is my very strong opinion that this should not be allowed. In an age where we can live stream legal proceedings for full transparency, especially in cases that are politically or racially charged, blocking access fuels fire of speculation and conspiracy. And that's all I have to say about that. We begin in earnest tonight in Arkansas with Aaron Spencer, an Army veteran running for sheriff in Lonoke County. He was arrested for the 2024 fatal shooting of the man charged with sexually abusing his daughter. A court order says Michael Fossler had been charged with 43 sexual-related offenses involving Spencer's minor daughter, and Fossler was out on a $50,000 bond with no contact conditions. On October 8, 2024, Spencer woke up and found his daughter missing. His wife called 911, and Spencer went looking for Fossler and found his daughter in Fossler's truck. According to a court order, Spencer pursued the truck, hit the back of it, saw his daughter trying to get out, believed Fossler grabbed her, and opened fire after Fossler lunged toward him. Spencer was then charged with second-degree murder. On June 4, 2026, the case was dismissed. Judge Ralph Wilson Jr. found that missing dash camera evidence had potential exculpatory value and would have been the only objective evidence of the encounter. The judge wrote that law enforcement conduct was, quote, so egregious that dismissal was warranted. Spencer is now the Republican nominee for sheriff. He won the March primary with 5,400 votes. The incumbent sheriff received less than 3,000. His campaign website says, quote, he is running for sheriff to restore trust in law enforcement, to demand accountability from public officials, and to make sure no family in Lonoke County ever faces the failures his family did. Florida lawmakers passed a proposed constitutional amendment Tuesday, June 2nd, that would expand the state's homestead property tax exemption and send the issue to voters. The measure is called, quote, Save Our Homes from Excessive Property Taxes. It passed the House 75-26 and the Senate 30-9, but now goes to the public where it needs 60% approval to become law. Governor Ron DeSantis called the special session and said the plan would eliminate taxes on homesteads. His office said local property tax revenue has grown from $32 billion to $60 billion over 7 years. If voters approve it, the non-school homestead exemption raises to $150,000 in 2027 and $250,000 in 2028. New Florida residents would start at $50,000 and wait until the 5th year for the larger exemption. The amendment also lowers the annual assessment cap on certain non-homestead properties from 10% to 5%. Democratic amendments to protect children's services, public safety, and veteran-related services failed before final passage. Florida voters will decide in November. Arkansas dad unsubscribing his daughter's abuser from future birthdays and then running for sheriff and winning. Easily my favorite 2026 news story. Hit like and subscribe. Share this with your friends. I'll see if I can find more like that one. The Supreme Court on Tuesday, June 2nd, let Alabama move forward for now with its 2023 congressional map. A lower court had blocked that map on May 26th, saying it intentionally discriminated against black voters. The district court ordered Alabama to keep using the court-approved map from the 2024 elections and May 19th primary. The Supreme Court stayed that order, saying Alabama was likely to succeed and that the lower court did not properly apply the Supreme Court's recent decision in Louisiana v. Calais. Justice Sonia Sotomayor dissented, joined by Justices Kagan and Brown-Jackson. She said the court was allowing a, quote, never-before-used congressional map that intentionally discriminates against black Alabamians. Alabama Attorney General Steve Marshall called the ruling, quote, a major victory for Alabama and for the principle of self-governance. This is an emergency stay, so hit subscribe for updates on Alabama redistricting as they become available. New York lawmakers passed a bill that would replace several legal terms tied to mothers and fathers with gender-neutral language. The official summary of Senate Bill S. 9316 says, quote, replaces the terms father and mother and filiation to gender-neutral language. The bill text removes definitions of mother and father in one Family Court Act section and replaces them with parent, parentage, and alleged parent. Other sections change mother to gestating parent, father to non-gestating parent, and mother and putative father to simply parties. After passing the Assembly on March 19th and the Senate on June 2nd, the bill heads to Governor Kathy Hochul's desk. Moving over to current events, on Monday, June 1st, federal prosecutors in San Diego said 4 people were charged after investigators found a cross-border tunnel from Tijuana to a Buy for Less storefront in Otay Mesa, California. Prosecutors say the tunnel was almost 2,000 feet long, 55 feet deep, and had reinforced walls, electricity, ventilation, and a rail system. HSI investigators watched the store from December through May after activity that did not look like normal retail business. On May 29th, deputies stopped 3 vehicles. Agents later reported finding 851 packages weighing more than 2,269 pounds. Samples field tested positive for cocaine. After seizure, agents searched Buy for Less and found the tunnel exit hidden under the floor of a storage room accessed by a hydraulic lift. U.S. Attorney Adam Gordon said, quote, for these defendants, it wasn't a light at the end of the tunnel, it was lights and sirens. Monday, June 1st, the judge in the case against accused Charlie Kirk killer held a virtual hearing. The defense had asked the court to hold 2 prosecutors in contempt for statements made outside of court. The judge ruled that the defense had shown cause to hold an evidentiary hearing to determine whether or not the prosecutors are in actual contempt of court. Next, he addressed the defense request to close the preliminary hearing to the media and the public. Judge Graff denied the motion, and the preliminary hearing will allow media access. The next scheduled hearing is June 12th and will be in person, including the defendant. On Tuesday, June 12th, in Bakersfield, California, around 1 p.m., police received calls of an individual in a Chase Bank building in possession of an explosive device. Responding officers confirmed that the suspect was barricaded in the second floor of the building with several hostages. He claimed, and police visually confirmed, that explosives were attached to himself as well as several hostages. During negotiation, local law enforcement handed operational control over to the FBI, who brought over 150 personnel to the site. The subject was identified as Anthony Scott Searless Harris. He was a 41-year-old U.S. Army vet who was dishonorably discharged for going AWOL. His criminal history includes sex acts with a child under 14. At 2 a.m., the FBI hostage rescue team took over the scene, and at 4:30 a.m., they neutralized the suspect. All 10 hostages were successfully recovered and reunited with their families on Wednesday. Two NIH researchers at Rocky Mountain Laboratory in Colorado were charged Tuesday, June 2nd, with conspiracy to smuggle monkeypox into the United States and giving false statements to federal law enforcement. Vincent Munster and Claude Quay arrived at Detroit Metropolitan Airport on January 25th after travel from the Republic of Congo. CBP officers saw them with a large black plastic case, and prosecutors say the men falsely claimed it contained diagnostics and testing equipment. Investigators say the case actually contained 113 vials in styrofoam coolers. Of the first 20 tested, 17 contained deactivated monkeypox virus, 1 contained chickenpox virus, and 2 contained only human DNA. U.S. Attorney Jerome Gordon said the 2, quote, apparently broke our laws by smuggling viral pathogens on a packed commercial airplane. Both men face up to 5 years in prison if convicted. On Thursday, June 4th, the Justice Department announced new fraud charges in Ohio and a new FBI list for wanted fraud defendants. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche said the Ohio announcement covered 14 defendants and fraud schemes targeting more than $50 million. The largest case is an alleged behavioral health fraud scheme. 4 defendants were charged in the Southern District of Ohio in connection with more than $30 million in claims for therapeutic behavioral services and psychotherapy for children and young adults. DOJ says the services were medically unnecessary or not provided as represented. Investigators seized 3 bank accounts with $469,000 and 14 vehicles worth $800,000, including several Mercedes, a Bentley, a BMW, a Jaguar, a Maserati, Land Rovers, and a McLaren. Ohio's Medicaid Fraud Control Unit also charged Robert Haley of Cincinnati in an alleged $12 million Medicaid billing scheme involving services prosecutors say were not actually provided to children in after-school programs. In a separate case, 4 defendants were charged in an alleged $1.4 million PPP fraud scheme. In world news, Paris Saint-Germain beat Arsenal on Saturday, May 30th, to win the Champions League final on penalties. After the match, celebrations in Paris and other French cities were followed by violence, looting, and attacks on police. According to French Interior Minister Laurent Nunez, authorities made 780 arrests nationwide, including 480 in Paris. He later updated the number to more than 890 arrests, up more than 45% from the previous year. He also said 178 members of the internal security forces were injured. Videos posted to X show crowds burning cars and destroying property. Go team go. A California CEO was arrested Wednesday, June 3rd, on a federal complaint accusing him of violating U.S. sanctions against Iran. Federal prosecutors identified him as 63-year-old Jamshid Gomi of Newport Coast. They say he's a dual U.S. Iranian national and the founder, owner, and CEO of Faraz Pardaz Rayana, a Tehran-based computer networking company. The DOJ says Gomi used the company for more than a decade to buy U.S. origin networking, security, and encryption equipment for customers in Iran without an OFAC license. He allegedly used eBay and PayPal accounts from 2011 to 2023, routed goods through intermediaries in the UAE, and arranged the smuggling of more than 250 metric tons of networking equipment to Iran. Customers included Iran's Atomic Energy Organization, Iran's Ministry of Defense, and Armed Forces Logistics. Prosecutors also say Gomi moved more than $15 million from Iran into U.S. accounts and falsely reported the money as foreign inheritance. If convicted, he faces up to 20 years in federal prison. Click subscribe to get updates on this story when they're available. Markets retreated across the board this week. The Dow had the least dramatic change, a drop of 166 points, and closed at 50,866. The S&P 500 lost 2.6%, falling 197 points to close at 7383. NASDAQ lost 1,263 points, representing a 4.7% loss. That index closed at 25,709 on Friday. Gold lost 5.23%, a $240 loss, and futures trading closed at $4,353 per ounce on Friday. And in sports, the Chicago Bears have taken their clearest step yet towards leaving Chicago. On June 5th, Bears chairman George McCaskey and President Kevin Warren said the team's board voted to advance a stadium project in Hammond, Indiana. Senate Bill 27 created the Northwest Indiana Stadium Authority to acquire and finance facilities. It also allows Hammond to impose an admissions tax and create a stadium development district. Indiana Governor Mike Braun welcomed the Bears, saying the state looks forward to a partnership, quote, as strong as the '85 Bears defense. The move is already drawing national pushback. In March, Congressman Greg Casar and Senator Bernie Sanders introduced the Home Team Act. The bill would require professional sports owners to give local communities a chance to buy a team before it moves across state lines. Casar's office specifically named the Bears, saying the team was threatening to leave Chicago after more than 100 years because of Indiana subsidies. But their own board has voted to move the stadium plan forward in Hammond, and Indiana is already treating it like a real pursuit. The 2026 Formula One Monaco Grand Prix is going on this weekend, but I record on Sunday morning, so the race is happening while I'm recording. Kimi Antonelli will start on pole, followed by Max Verstappen, and then the two Ferraris. There's hope with the new regulations that this year won't be just another Monaco parade, but we'll see. If Antonelli hangs on, his first 5 wins will have come sequentially, something that's never been done in Formula One. Hit subscribe, and I'll tell you how that race finishes next week. The NBA Finals head back to New York, where the Knicks have a chance to take the championship on their home court. The Knicks won the first 2 games in San Antonio, with Game 3 Monday night at 8:30 p.m. on ABC. In the Stanley Cup playoffs, the Las Vegas Golden Knights lead the Hurricanes 2-1, with Game 3 coming in Las Vegas Tuesday, June 9th at 8 p.m. And finally, in the MLB, the Yankees sit just 1 game behind Tampa Bay for control of the AL East, but starting catcher Austin Wells joined sluggers Stanton and Judge on the IL on Friday. Atlanta still has a 9.5 game lead in the NL East, and the Brewers sit 5 games on top of the NL Central. But in the NL West, after going 2-8 in their last 10, the Padres are now 8 games behind the division-leading Dodgers. And like it or not, that's what happened. I'm Rich Stevens, and this has been The Cold Take. So California gave us 3 stories. We've got tunnel to Tijuana, we've got Chase Bank bomb scare, and then we've got just a nice old man selling security equipment to the Iranian nuclear program. Wow. Hit like, subscribe, share this with your friends. California's going to do something else weird next week, I promise.